In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a requested tutorial from my group on how to cut this stylish conical dress with front opening. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. And this dress is from Melanin Rockella on TikTok. So for this pattern, I've gone ahead to mark my basic measurement, which is my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and then for your hip point, use 7 to 8 inches depending on how tall you are. Now I'll be using the length of this pattern paper as the full length of my dress. Now I'll go ahead and mark my shoulder divided by 2, and I'll come down by 1 inch. After marking that, I'll go ahead to mark a neckline of 3 inches, and the depth of the neckline I'll be using 2.5 to 2.7 inches because the neckline is a bit high, right? Now you can go ahead to use this, or just go ahead to use your basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to connect from my neckline all the way to that my shoulder divided by 2. Now is to find your chest line, and to get your chest line is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll place my ruler and draw a straight line. After marking that, I'll go ahead to place my tape on my chest line, and I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2. Now I'll place my ruler, and I'm going to connect this all the way up. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to divide what I have here into 2 equal parts and mark. Here I'll come out by ½ inch, and after that I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. After marking this, I'll go ahead to connect from here all the way up, and then connect from the midpoint all the way to the first line of my pattern. After I'm done marking this, I'll insert my measurement. For this dress, I'll be cutting it as a dartless pattern. Here, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and for your sewing allowance, please don't use much. You might use like 1.5 because of the conical effect at the hip area, so that it doesn't become bulky. Here I'll mark the under bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll go ahead to add my sewing allowance. Going over to the waistline, I'm going to go ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. So after marking this, I'll first of all go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 before I can add the conical hip effect after drafting. So I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4 together with my allowance. Now whatever I have on the hip, I'll minus 1 inch from it and mark it at the lower part of this dress. So here I'm going to place my ruler, connect from the bust to the under bust to the waist and towards the hip area. So for the hip, I added my sewing allowance together with the hip, and now I'll go ahead to extend this all the way to the lower part. Now let's go ahead to alter this dress to get the design that we want. Now for the front part of this dress, I'm going to come up by ½ inch at the waist. Now I'm going to go ahead to mark ½ inch here. Then going down, I'll open it up to about 1 inch for this center opening, right? And I'll connect this all the way down. Now if you're using a dress that has like a pattern or line that has a design here, you can just cut this as one piece and cut out the center. That is if you don't want to add an ashoke to the dress, you cut it open and then join your fabric together. Now for this center part, I'm just going to go ahead to mark 1.5 inches. So you can use 1.5 to 2 inches if you like for the center. Now I'm going to mark this all the way to the lower part, and after I'm done marking, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to connect from that point going all the way to the lower part of my pattern. After extending this all the way to the lower part of my pattern, now let's move over to the conical effect on this dress. For your conical effect, you can use extra 3 inches or 2.5 inches depending on how you want the effect to be. I don't think 4 inches might work. It might be too much for you. I'll start connecting from the waist to the hip, and I'll start taking it all the way down to the lower part of my pattern, right? And blend it out. Now, if you're not okay with the shape, you can go ahead to alter it. before going ahead to transfer it to your fabric. But if you're okay with it, please go ahead to cut. So this is why I said do not use much sewing allowance by the side. If not, the conical effect might turn out bulky. You need little or less sewing allowance by the side of this dress because of the conical effect by the side. Now this is what I have. Now I'm going to place this on another pattern paper, right? And I will mark here as my zipper. For your zipper, use 1.5 to 2 inches, and I'll place my pattern on it, and I'll go ahead to trace it out all the way around. So after tracing it out, we are now going to go ahead to use that as the back pattern, and then still go ahead to cut out some parts that will not be needing for the front pattern. So after tracing it out, this is what I have. I made a mark at the waist and also at the hip. Now place your tape connecting from the waist to the hip, and then go ahead to connect it all the way to the upper part of my pattern. So after marking this, for the neckline of the back, I'm using a basic neckline of 3 by 1 inch or 3 by 1.5 inches, depending on the one that is okay for you. So I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out. So if you have any question regarding this pattern drafting, please kindly go ahead to ask your question. So I'll just go ahead and I will cut out my zipper area, that bulge at the back. Now let's go ahead to work on the front part. So just like I said, if you notice on the original pattern, at the center of this dress has like an ashoke or like a fabric at the center. If you don't want to add that to the center part of your pattern, all you have to cut out is this part now that I am cutting out. Now you now go ahead to cut out your pattern on fold, right, without adding a design. But if you're going to add like another fabric to it to create the design, you have to like cut this out and then replace it with that fabric that you want to use at this part. Remember, you'll be adding like a joining allowance to this pattern because you are going to be joining it together as one piece.